Welcome back to Humbled Highs, Episode 8, What the Locust Ate, Rapha Restored. Hope y'all having a good day. I hope you're enjoying these stories. I am getting some great feedback, and I'm enjoying doing these. This is really good for me as far as this cathartic thing of getting all these memories out and working them through this filter of what God has done through my life. And I'm hoping that this stuff can help you guys in the same sense. I gotta pause and let you guys know this is a warning. This episode contains explicit drug use, detailed drug use, something that maybe your little kids don't need to know about. So I'll let you pause for a second, get them out of the room, and we'll continue. The title of the episode, What the Locust Ate, Rapha Restored, is going to all come to light when this story comes back around full circle. So like I said in the last episode, the need for acceptance and approval led me to use drugs to feel that need for approval. It filled in a large gap that I had in my life. And because, thankfully I had no way to drink alcohol except for passing out. I had many occurrences where that happened, so I just don't mess with it. But drugs, shoot, I can do a boatload of them. Could do a boatload of them. And if you get some sort of concept through this story, how much drugs I have used from age 16 to age 36, you would not believe how I could still be able to talk to you, how I can form sentences, how I can publicly speak, how I can speak on a podcast for 25 minutes and keep my train of thought. It's only because of God. So at age 16, I started smoking pot. It was something that me and my best friend Cameron found to be joining in our friendship. It was an older cousin of his that kind of brought it to us the first time. We formed a little pipe out of some aluminum foil and smoked it. And when I felt the effect for the first time, I was more paranoid than I've ever experienced. It hit me, and I felt like the cops were going to just swarm in on us as teenagers. But that didn't happen. My relationship with Mary Jane grew pretty tight. As I got acclimated to it, my brain chemistry really enjoyed that feeling, and so did my stomach, because most people, they're happy, hungry, sleepy, and I was always hungry. I gained 25 pounds from in about a year and a half of smoking that stuff, and that's a fair warning to you. Marijuana every drug has a price tag. And for me, not only was it getting fat because I ate a bunch of food, but marijuana also ruins your short-term memory. And if you don't know that, then maybe you already forgot. But if you're smoking constantly as an addict, which that's who I am. I will forever be an addict. You don't have to be using drugs to still know that you are an addict. I have that from my family genetics. And short-term memory from marijuana, if you are an addict, when you add up short-term memory over and over and over, it turns into long-term memory loss. It's a wonder that I can even remember these stories. It's crazy. So I go straight from high school, graduate high school, 97, and I go right into the Navy. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting my life squared away, get away from drugs, gonna be super straight. Well, I found this family of acceptance and approval in the Navy. When I got to my ship in Norfolk, Virginia, it was like a band of brothers. You get a job where all the people are in your intelligence range, and you seem to really grow a tight family. But that family also led me right back into drugs. I was super scared of getting drug tested in the Navy. So the idea came up that, what's something that they can't test you for? That's LSD, acid. The only way to drug test you on acid is to do a hair sample test, and they weren't doing that. They were just doing simple urinalysis. So that was the kind of the drug of choice. I had a house, and so all my friends would come over to the house, and we would just we'd use acid on the weekends, and do the tripping out stuff. Every drug comes with a price tag, and one of the ways that they make LSD, one of the base ingredients is strychnine. Strychnine is a poison that you probably would like, what's strychnine? It kills rats. Strychnine kills rats, and it's one of the ingredients in making LSD. And I had gotten some bad acid, and I'm still feeling the effects of it today. If you know me and see me, sometimes I'll have these cold chill. It looks like I'm having a cold chill, but it's a nervous system reaction that I had to some bad acid. I mean, I almost died that one night. My whole body was in what felt like a muscle spasm throughout my whole body. So, it came with a price tag. Also, did that stop me from doing drugs? No, I'm dumb. Also in the Navy, when we were out to sea, one of my shipmates had drugs shipped to him from Virginia on the boat. Drugs like ecstasy, drugs like ketamine, and acid. So while we're on our 6-month cruise overseas, I'm doing acid while I'm on duty. And we had this blue electrical flooring, and I'm sitting there staring at the floor, and it looks like it's a big whirlpool. Ketamine is a tranquilizer for animals, but in small doses, it's a dissociative drug that we would use. And I didn't fortunately get as bad as some of my shipmates who were injecting it into their muscles. I never messed with needles, thank the Lord. But so, I mean, I'm continuing this track of doing more dangerous drugs, ecstasy, ketamine, acid in the Navy. When I got out of the Navy, honorably discharged. Now, thankfully, I never popped on a drug test. I had to go to extreme measures to make sure that I wasn't going to get caught. But got out of the Navy 2001, and me and a great friend, we moved. We actually got the same job together using our clearance. We had a top secret clearance in the Navy, and we both got this job. I actually moved up to New York after I got out of the Navy, and I was living with him and his family in New York, and we were waiting on a job. We had this top secret clearance, which is worth a whole lot of money in the civilian world. And boom, we got this phone call. We got the job. And so we were super happy. So we moved to Washington, D.C., right outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. Got this awesome job. And we were getting paid like $28 an hour to do squat. All we had to do was just open up doors and let people work inside of them. That's it, and watch them. So with all this money, me and him, we really got into this club scene. And so in Washington, D.C., there's 2 of the best clubs for this electronic dance music, EDM. And me and my boy, we started going to these clubs, Club Nation, and this other one, it was the Saturday night club. It wasn't all, it was small, but it was just like right across the street. But Club Nation was 30,000 square foot rave club. and international DJs would come, and it was like a concert if you like that kind of music. The oofts, 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 oofts. You know, I'm not into that no more. I mean, it just brings back these memories of me being out of my mind. But in those club scenes, I was just on the tip of the iceberg of doing those drugs in the Navy. But with this money that I was making and no real responsibilities, me and this dude were sharing an efficiency hotel room. So we had like no expenses. So we would just drop $1,000 each of us on drugs. We had a drug dealer that we found in the club early on, and we would go to him. We would buy 10 pills of ecstasy. We would buy a bag of coke. We'd buy a bag of marijuana. Sometimes he had methamphetamine. Sometimes he had, whatever. And we would buy it. And on the way to the club, we'd start dropping our ecstasy. And by the time we got into the club, we'd do it every Friday, every Saturday. The club opened at 10 p.m. and it closed at 6 a.m. That's 8 hours of raving every Friday, every Saturday. For nearly 2 years, I did this. This is when I'm like 21 to 23. And the crazy story, on my 22nd birthday, like, we had made a lot of friends in this club, and I was actually dealing in the club because of my need for acceptance and approval. I didn't need money. I had a great job, but I would like deal ecstasy in the club and just make more and more friends. So had a lot of friends. 22nd birthday comes around. It's a Saturday night, so we're at the smaller club, and my boy is telling everybody it's my birthday, it's my birthday. This one girl, she's selling hits of acid, 3 hits on one strip. Now, for somebody who's never used it, 1 is enough. 3 will send you to the moon. Okay? I did 3 on my own. I did a strip of 3 on my own. I'm already popping 2 or 3 X pills, and I'm rolling and I'm doing acid. They call it candy flipping, and I was high as a kite. And people are coming around to me, giving me birthday gifts. They say, "Stick out your tongue." Put acid on it. And this happened all throughout the night, and I'm keeping track of it. Close to the end of the night, maybe like 3 in the morning, I had done 7 of those strips. That's 21 hits of acid. I'd done over 10 to 12 ecstasy pills. And I'm on this elevated dance floor, laid out on my back. The music's going, the DJ's playing music, and it is so intrinsic. And everybody's got their hands on me, because on ecstasy, your dopamine is flooded, and your body's very receptive to touch. Feels like somebody's rubbing your feet, but all over your body. Just like that intense feeling. Have you ever had that thing that people stick on the top of your head that it rubs on your scalp and makes your back straighten out? It's like that all over your body. And I nearly lost my brain. What happened is my consciousness nearly escaped my body. What they call psychosis. And the danger of acid, the danger of using those drugs, even for the first time user, is that you can go into permanent psychosis. That means your consciousness, your mind is now separated from your body, and you are just a vegetable. And I could feel my brain leaving, my consciousness like leaving my body. Not a death experience, but I had to come quick back to reality and just like pull my thoughts back together, because I knew it was just about donezo for me. I was just about to lose my mind. The club closed at 6 a.m. and the sun is coming up. It's Washington, D.C. And I'm walking around. I'm like, we cannot go back to the car because none of us can drive. We just start walking around Washington, D.C. We ran into a senator, and I'm dressed up in all 3-stripe Adidas. And we have this conversation with this senator. We're walking around D.C. People are protesting. And meanwhile, the clouds are purple. The grass is talking to me. And I didn't come down from that high until that following Monday. That's how ridiculous of drugs I was using. Now, fast forward. I am in a full-blown addiction. I'm using methamphetamine. I'm smoking methamphetamine. I'm smoking coke and methamphetamine together. I'm doing ketamine. I'm doing acid. I'm doing ecstasy. And pot is just like its cousin. But, I mean, it's along with it. We lost that job. Lost it. And I'm moving to Virginia. And my boy, he stayed up in the DC area. I'm in Virginia, and I'm feeling kind of lonely. I call up my son's mother, and I asked her to come move back with me to Virginia. And for a brief period of time, I got my life cleaned up. I got a job as a cable guy, and my son moved back with us, and I'm playing Family Guy again. And that lasted for a little while. She knew a girl that we had been friends with when I was in the Navy, and a black girl named Cassandra. And Cassandra was having some hard times, and she asked if she could move in with us. Now, the only place we could afford to live at was kind of like a government-assisted townhouses. Like, I was paying the full rent, but a lot of the people there were not. So, it's sad to say, but drug dealers associate with low income housing. And as I was going to work as a cable guy, these drug dealers were coming around and visiting these two girls, Cassandra and my son's mother. And turns out they're crack dealers. And I come home one day, and they're like, "Hey, we tried some crack, and it's really good." I'm like, "You tried what? Crack?" And they're like, "Yeah, try it." I don't know what was convincing me to think that was a good idea. But all it took was one hit. Crack cocaine had me like nothing else. And overnight, I'm a crackhead. I'm getting off work as a cable guy, and I'm going to people's apartments looking for people who don't have cable and knocking on their door and saying, "Hey, $50, I'll connect your cable." Boom, I could make $250 in less than an hour, and go to the crackhead the crack dealer who lived in my neighborhood, and get enough to supply the three of us for the night. I'd stay up till 5 a.m, sleep an hour, and then go back to work. And I repeated that process for months. Now, yeah, you said my son lived with me. Well, that was short-lived, because my son's mother's parents, they came up, they saw what kind of condition we were in, and they took my son away and took him back to Tennessee. We were living in Virginia. And the most shameful thing I could ever say is that my 5-6-year-old son was living with 3 crackheads. And it was that's just terrible, terrible thing. I got so twacked out on crack, man. I mean, I was down to like 170 pounds. For a 6'3" person, that's pretty slim. Didn't cut my hair for months. Well, turns out I lost that job as a cable guy. Obviously, I didn't have my eye on the ball. I was smoking crack in the middle of the day, out cutting people's cable on, knocking on their door. "I am your cable guy. I'm a crackhead too." I mean, I lost everything because I was a crackhead. My son's mother actually ended up leaving me for one of my best friends, which is cool. He took her off my hands. It was the best blessing I could ever ask for. So I had nothing. I called my mom, and I'm like, "Hey, I need to come home." And she's like, "Okay, but you can't stay here for long. You're an adult." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Got on a Greyhound bus, packed up just a duffel bag full of stuff. I left everything behind. And there's another story that goes along with that, of how in between that period of getting off of crack, Cassandra got out of that crack situation, got hooked up with a guy that was in a hustle gang. And that hustle gang took me on and helped me get out of that crack addiction. How did they do that? They they smoked a lot of pot. And there's some research that kind of actually backs that up. You can smoke enough pot to get off of other drugs. It still makes you a pot addict, but at least you're not a crack addict. But anyway, I'm going to tell you the story of how I was in a hustle gang on the next podcast. But so I broke the crack addiction. I go back home to Tennessee. I'm broke, and I'm really not addicted to anything. I mean, I'm still kind of addicted to pot, but I've got no money to smoke. Live with my mom. I hooked up with another girl. I moved in with this girl. I didn't really know her, and started working all kind of different jobs. And I got back into, friendship with a couple of guys back in Tennessee, started doing cocaine again. And I was doing quite a bit of cocaine. At a point, I was doing at least 1 gram a day. And I could remember in one occurrence, I did a whole 8-ball, which is 3.5 grams. That's the size of a ping pong ball. I did that in less than 6 hours. I knew I had a major addiction to cocaine. And it really messed up my sinuses. And cocaine's expensive, y'all. So, I mean, it was draining my funds. I couldn't never get ahead in life because of these addictions. I was able to cut away from that addiction. And my addiction to marijuana has been there since I was 16, and I stopped when I left being a drug dealer and became, married to Amber. But I basically went from that into being a drug dealer, and you guys know that story. There is no way that anybody could have done the amount of drugs that I have done in my life and still be able to form sentences, to be able to speak, to talk. Ecstasy cuts holes in your brain. Acid turns people into vegetables. Meth makes people's teeth fall out. Ketamine causes tons of overdoses. I should have overdosed and died many, many, many times. All I can say is God has been there, and God in his providence knew where I'd be at right now. There is no good amount of money you can't just spend all your money on drugs and expect that life is going to go well for you. And you can't use any drugs thinking that you've got some handle on it. I am an addict, and I have to do everything I can to avoid any situation that drugs are going to be at. If I were to walk into a room and there'd be some cocaine, I've got to be like Joseph and just, like somebody's grabbing at my coat. I'm leaving the coat and I'm hightailing it out of there. Not because I'm weak, because I know my weakness. And I will never be in a situation where I'm going to be tempted with drugs, because I know who I am, and I know that I'm an addict, and I will never put myself in that situation again. It's only God's mercy that has enabled me to have a brain that I can still use. And it astonishes me. It brings me to tears, because there's so many people that have overdosed. And thank God that fentanyl wasn't on the market when I was using drugs, because I dang sure run across a lot of fentanyl, all kinds of the shady deals that I was getting into. So what the locust ate, Rapha restored. Exodus 15:26 said, God is Jehovah Rapha, the Lord that heals. He is the Lord, our physician, our doctor. This verse, it speaks of literal physical healing. Ecstasy cuts holes in your brain. I don't have holes in my brain. Not anymore, at least. It's that mercy, y'all. And don't think that you can do drugs and have the same story. I'm a very unique subject, and I would not recommend doing one drug. Not one. You never know. You never miss what you never try. Joel 2:25, I will repay for you the years that the locust ate. And he has restored me to full capacity. But I could only wonder what kind of brain I would have if I'd never used drugs. I know I'd be a lot more capable. I'd be a lot more helpful and useful in the kingdom of God. So guys, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad, okay? That's Mr. McKay. That's the lesson. I mean, I'm a unique case, and God's mercy shined on me, and there's only one reason I made it out. That's because of him. Amen. Hey guys, I love you. God loves you. I'm going to be back and tell you the story of how I was in a hustle gang next. Peace.